All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our MLB video here today for Tuesday, April 6th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to save yourself some time and you don't really feel like watching the entire show, all my picks for this video can actually be located at the end of the video in my quick pick recap segment. All you have to do is click the timestamp in the comment section below to get all of my picks for this video in about 30 seconds. And if you really end up enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please feel free to do that right now as well. I greatly appreciate it. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive into some Major League Baseball action. We're only missing one game here today. We're missing the 1 o'clock game. I believe, Detroit and the Twins. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to take a look at the Astros squaring off against the Angels, 4:07 Eastern Standard Time. The Angels are the $1.15 favorite, totals 9 flat. And if you like the Astros in a slight upset away from home here, they're minus 105 on the money line. Now, Zach Greinke's on the hill for the Astros, Dylan Bundy for the Angels. Now, Bundy allowed 3 runs over 6 innings in his opening day start, 4.50 ERA thus far in the season, and he failed to get the W in that start. Now, guys, real quick, before we go ahead and move on here, I just got to quickly remind you once again that we are hitting at 70% in our last 10 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 73% in our last 30 extra daily picks on that page as well. If you want to join the, 1,150 members. No, it's 1,175 members who are currently signed up and active on that page. Link for that site is in the description section below. It's all my premium picks, all the games that I'm betting on. That is patreon.com/BrockPage. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to this ball game here, despite a surprising 4-1 start from Los Angeles, their pitching staff is really struggling to keep runners off the bases. They're in the bottom 10 in hits allowed, and they also find themselves giving up nearly 6 runs per contest. Now, they're taking on a Houston squad who's gotten off to a 4-1 start themselves, and they currently lead, Major League Baseball in scoring on average per contest. Yuli Gurriel is 9 for 18 on the season, 6 walks and 13 total bases. Meanwhile, Alex Bregman's 8 for 17 himself, couple homers, 6 ribbies for Bregman. The Astros are in the top 3 in hits, and they're striking out only 7 times a game. Now, total-wise, Houston's last 4 straight all got over the total of 9 runs. They're officially 5-0 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, 3 out of the Angels' last 4 got over the total of 9 runs themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros minus 105 and the over 9 runs. Next contest, it is going to be Orioles versus the Yankees, 6:35 Eastern first pitch. The Yankees are minus 305, totals 8. Cole for the Yankees, Kramer for the O's. Now, Dean Kramer saw limited action last season, going 1-1 with a 4.82 ERA. He also struggled with command in spring training. And I'll tell you what, despite a great start to the season, the Orioles are having a bit of, difficulty making contact at the plate. They're striking out nearly a dozen times a game, and they're also in the bottom 5 offensively in strikeouts per game as well. They're taking on a Yankee team who won 2 out of their last 3, and that includes a 7-0 shellacking of Baltimore yesterday. The Yankee pitching staff is in the top 3 in runs allowed, top 5 in walks given up. Now, Garrett Cole got the no decision in his opening day start, but he gave up just 2 runs. He also threw 62 of his 97 total pitches for strikes. Total-wise, New York's 4-0 to the under. Baltimore's 3-1 to the under. I'm going to lean toward the Yankees minus 1.5 and the under 8 runs. Next contest, Cards, Marlins, 640 East. The Miami Marlins are minus $1.35, total 7.5. Sandy Alcantara for the Fish, John Gant for the Cards. The Cardinals have dropped 2 out of their last 3 despite a victory yesterday over the Fish. The Cards pitching staff has really struggled, ranking in the bottom 3 in runs allowed, bottom 3 in strikeouts. St. Louis is currently allowing 7 runs per game. They're taking on a Miami squad who's got Sandy Alcantara on the bump here today. 6 scoreless innings in his first start of 2021, 7 strikeouts in that outing. The Marlins are in the top 10 in walks allowed, and they're holding their opponents to under 7 hits per contest. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Miami's last 3 did get over the total of 7.5. St. Louis saw 3 out of their last 4 get over that number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins, minus $1.35, and the over 7.5. Next contest, Pirates versus the Reds, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Start Time. The Cincinnati Reds are minus $1.55, numbers 9. Wade Miley for the Reds, Trevor Cahill for Pittsburgh. Now, Trevor Cahill had a sub-3.77 ERA in 2 out of his last 3 seasons. And although the Pirates have struggled to put runners on base this year, this pitching staff ranks in the top 3 in hits allowed per contest. Now, the Pirates are also in the top 3 in striking batters out. They're averaging nearly a dozen strikeouts per game. They're taking on a Cincy squad who's got Wade Miley on the bump for him here today. Now, Miley's actually been dealing with a hammy issue, and he really hasn't had an incredible amount of success against Pittsburgh in his career. Just 2 wins in 10 career starts against the Pirates. Now, the Reds are in the bottom 10 in runs allowed. They're giving up almost 5.5 runs per contest. When it comes to the number in this one, since he's 3-1 to the over on the year, he also play in a pretty small ballpark. I'm going to lean toward the Pittsburgh Pirates plus 1.5, keeping this one close in the over 9 runs. Next contest, Mets versus the Phillies, 7:05 Eastern first pitch. Now, the New York Mets are minus $1.25 on the road, numbers 9 flat. Marcus Stroman for the Mets, Chase Anderson for the Fightins. Now, Anderson had a solid spring training here with the Phils, and he's also had a sub-1.27 whip in 3 out of his last 4 seasons. Now, the Phillies pitching staff is in the top 3 in runs allowed, top 3 in strikeouts. They're punching out 11.5 batters per contest. Now, they're taking on a Mets team who's coming off a tough 5-3 loss yesterday to the Phils. They actually gave up 5 runs in the 8th inning to blow the game. And as solid as Stroman was in certain spots last season, he's had a whip of 1.22 or above in his last 6 straight seasons. Now, total-wise, the Phils are 3-1 to the under in their 4 ball games on the year. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Phillies plus $1.10 and the under 9 runs. Next ball game, Rays versus the Red Sox, 7:10 East. The Tampa Bay Rays are minus $1.60, totals 9. Glass now for the Rays, Perez for the Sox. Now, Perez went 2-1 against the Rays last season with a 2.30 ERA. The Bo Sox destroyed Tampa Bay yesterday by the final of 11-2. This Boston lineup is currently in the top 5 in offensive strikeouts, doing a pretty nice job making contact with the baseball. J.D. Martinez is 8 for 15 on the year with 3 doubles and a pair of homers. Meanwhile, Xander Bogaerts is 5 for 17 himself with a double and 6 total bases. Now, they're taking on a Tampa squad who lost their last 2 straight, and they also gave up 23 total runs in those losses. Tyler Glasnow also struggled with Boston last season, giving up 9 runs in 11 innings over 2 starts. Now, total-wise, Tampa Bay's 3-1 to the over on the year. Boston saw their last 2 straight get over the line. I'm going to lean toward the Boston Red Sox plus 1.5 and the over 9 runs. Next contest, divisional game here, Brewers versus the Cubs, 7:40 Eastern Standard Time. Now, the Chicago Cubs are minus $1.15, numbers 9 juice to the over. Albert Alzolay for the Cubs, Freddie Peralta for the Brewers. Now, after 3 seasons, Peralta has a career ERA of 4.62, along with a 1.29 whip. Milwaukee's currently on a 3-game skid, and they've scored just 5 total runs in those contests. The Brewers are also in the bottom 5 in scoring, and They strike out a dozen times a game. They're taking on a Cubbies team who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves, and they rank in the top 10 in runs allowed. Now, starting pitcher Albert Alzolay, he also has a 3.15 ERA in 5 games at Wrigley. Now, total-wise, Chicago's 3-1 to the under thus far for the season. Milwaukee saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the total of 9 runs as well. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs minus $1.15 and the under 9 runs. Next contest, Blue Jays Rangers 8:05 Eastern Showdown. The Toronto Blue Jays are minus $1.25 on the road. Totals 9.5. Tanner Roark for the Blue Jays. Dane Dunning for the Rangers. Now, Dunning had a sub 3.98 ERA last season with the White Sox, and he also had a solid spring training this year. The Rangers have been pretty good at the plate despite their record. They're actually in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in hits. Nate Lowe is 6 for 18 for Texas, 10 ribbies, 10 total bases for the first baseman. Meanwhile, Isaiah Kiner Falefa is 6 for 17 himself, along with a homer and 3 RBI. They're taking on a Blue Jays squad who ranks in the bottom 10 in scoring despite their record. The Blue Jays are averaging less than 3.8 runs per contest. I've been wanting to call them the Blue Jackets for 2 days now. I don't know why I keep wanting to call them that. But anyway, they also have Tanner Roark on the hill, who finished, he finished his 2020 campaign with a 6.80 ERA and also has an 0-4 career record against Texas. Now, total-wise, Toronto's 4-0 to the under for the season. Texas saw 2 out of their last 4 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Texas Rangers plus 105 and the under 9.5. Next matchup, D-backs Rockies, 8:40 p.m. Eastern start time. The Colorado Rockies are minus $1.25 at home. Totals 10.5. German Marquez for the Rockies. Luke Weaver for Arizona. Now, Weaver was a pitiful 1-9 last season through 12 starts, 6.58 ERA, and a 1.55 whip. The D-backs have lost 3 of 4 to open up the season, and they're scoring only 3 runs a game. They're taking on a Rockies team who's in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in fewest offensive strikeouts. Trevor Story's 5 for 17 on the year with a double and 6 total bases. Meanwhile, Ryan McMahon's gone 4 for 12 with a homer and 3 RBI. And despite an outing that showed a considerable lack of control, German Marquez still allowed only 1 run through 4 innings. Now, total-wise, Arizona's last 3 ball games stayed under the total of 10.5 runs. I'm going to lean toward the Colorado Rockies minus $1.25 and the under 10.5. Next contest, it is going to be Dodgers versus the Athletics. 9:40 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are minus 175, totals 8 flat. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, Chris Bassett for the Athletics. Now, Bassett's 0-1 on the season with a 5.06 ERA. The A's are winless on the year. 0-5 to start the season. They're in the bottom 3 in scoring, and they're averaging just 2.4 runs per contest. They're taking on a Dodger team who leads the majors in hits and walks. Corey Seager's gone 9 for 17 with 3 doubles and 6 ribbies. Meanwhile, Max Muncy's 8 for 20 with 3 ribbies and 11 total bases. The Dodgers are averaging over 7 runs per contest. When it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of LA's 5 ball games on the season got over the total of 8 runs. Oakland's seen all 5 of their contests on the season get over that number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the over 8 runs. Next contest, White Sox Mariners, 10:10 Eastern Standard Time. The Chicago White Sox are minus $1.45, total 7.5. Lucas Giolito for the White Sox, James Paxton for the Mariners. Paxton's coming off a tough abbreviated 2020 season, 6.64 ERA in just 5 starts with the Yankees, 147 whip. The Mariners have lost 2 out of their last 3, and they rank in the bottom 10 offensively in hits. They're also striking out 11 times a game. They're taking on a Chicago club who scores nearly 6 runs a game themselves, and they rank in the top 10 in hits. Yermin Mercedes, he's 12 for 18, 3 doubles, 6 RBI. Meanwhile, Luis Robert, he's 5 for 20 with a double and 6 total bases himself. Lucas Giolito also struck out 8 in a season opener in just over 5 innings of work. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Chicago's last 4 got over the total of 7.5 runs. Meanwhile, 2 out of Seattle's last 4 got over that number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago White Sox minus $1.45 in the over 7.5. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Giants versus the Padres, 10:10 Eastern start time. The San Diego Padres are minus $1.90, totals 8. Yu Darvish for the Pods, Aaron Sanchez for San Francisco. Now, Sanchez missed the entire 2020 season last year, and he hasn't had an ERA in the 3s since the 2016 season with Toronto. They're taking on a Padres team who's in the top 10 in hits, top 3 in offensive walks. Jake Cronenworth's batting .412 with 7 hits and 2 doubles. Meanwhile, Eric Hosmer's gone 7 for 15 with a pair of homers and 6 RBI. Now, real quick, Fernando Tatis Jr., he's going to be out for a while with shoulder subluxation. The Padres are striking out less than 7.9 times per contest. Despite a little bit of a rough start here for Yu Darvish, he still struck out 6 batters in his opener, and he comes off a fantastic 2020 season where he was 8-3 with a 2.01 ERA and a .96 WHIP. Now, total-wise, the Pods are 4-1 to the under on the season. Their last 4 straight games all fell under the total of 8 runs. Meanwhile, the Giants saw their last 2 straight fall under that number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Padres, minus 1.5, and the under 8 runs. With that, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. Give me Houston, minus 105, over 9. New York Yankees, minus 1.5, under 8. Miami Marlins, minus $1.35, over 7.5. Pittsburgh Pirates, plus 1.5, over 9. Philly, plus $1.10, under 9. Boston plus 1.5 over 9 runs. Chicago Cubs minus $1.15 under 9 runs. Texas plus 105 under 9.5. Colorado minus $1.25 under 10.5. LA Dodgers minus 1.5 over 8 runs. Chicago White Sox minus $1.45 over 7.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are hitting at 70% in our last 10 $1.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 73% in our last 30 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the San Diego Padres minus 1.5 and the under 8 runs. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.